One of the main targets for breeding is, of course, disease resistance, because potato is subject to many different diseases, virus, etc. And one of the main disease problems is, of course, late blight that caused the Great Irish Famine in the mid-1840s that killed about 2 million people in Ireland and drove 1.5 million away to America. So this disease is due to a pathogen that is called Phytophthora infestans, and this pathogen is also very famous in plant pathology because it's the first case where we had an actual demonstration of the germ theory of disease, meaning that it was first demonstrated that it was actually a biological agent that caused the disease. Late blight is still very much a problem now for growers, almost 2 centuries after its introduction in Europe. That's why breeding efforts for blight resistance are still a major goal for potato breeders to this day, especially for organic growers, because they need, of course, more resistant varieties than conventional growers.
My name is Annegret Schmitt and I'm working at the Louis Bolk Institute at the Institute for Biological Control in Darmstadt in Germany. I'm coordinating the project CoFree, which stands for Innovative Strategies for Copper-Free Low-Input and Organic Farming Systems. Copper-based products are used in agriculture, especially in organic farming, but they also play a role in integrated farming for resistance management of pathogens. On that background, the European Union has funded and is funding research projects that are working on the reduction or replacement of copper. So CoFree is an EU-funded project, funded under the 7th Framework Programme. There are 20 project partners involved in the project. Several are research institutions that are dealing with fundamental and applied research. We have partners that perform the field trials, and we have small and medium enterprises that are working on the development of alternative compounds. The idea of the project is to build strategies that integrate different approaches, and we are going to tackle the most severe diseases and involve the most important crops with respect to copper use currently. So we decided to work with grape and downy mildew, with tomato and potato with respect to late blight, and with apple and apple scab. CoFree is a modular system which brings together different approaches, and these 4 approaches are the following. One is the use of alternative compounds based on microbial origin or on plant origin, and here we use compounds that have either a direct effect on the pathogen or those that have an inducing effect, induced resistance, which means that they strengthen the plant to defend themselves against the pathogens. As a second pillar, we use decision support systems, and decision support systems are already known and are already used in agriculture, but within CoFree we are going to develop them and adapt them to the use of these alternative compounds or to the use of tolerant and less susceptible varieties. Furthermore, we are testing in different cropping systems. So these range from traditional high-yield cropping systems up to extensive agroforestry systems. And the 4th pillar is the use of less susceptible or resistant varieties. Of course, in a 4-year project, you cannot start from the scratch, and thus we are taking advantage of the outcomes and the most promising results from former national and international research projects. One approach, as I mentioned, is the use of less susceptible or tolerant varieties, and for example in potato a lot of work was done with breeding for late blight resistance of potatoes. So of course in CoFree we do not do the breeding work. We use resistant and tolerant varieties or less susceptible varieties, and we address one further aspect which is important in that respect, and this is the consumer acceptance of new varieties.
Welcome to INRA Prudenien. It's the research station on potato breeding and genetics. So the whole story starts with the use of genetic resources. That means wild relatives of the cultivated potato. And you've got some of those species around here. The large diversity of flower colors, shapes, etc. Here we have a collection of about 10,000 clones that can be used for the breeding programs. All that material is, of course, of foreign origin, mainly South American. So all those genotypes are introduced here, and then they are kept free from pathogens using in vitro cultures. So in vitro cultures are one way of keeping those genetic resources free from pathogens. But if you want to go to the long-term storage, there are new methods now being developed using liquid nitrogen and meristem preservation that are increasingly being developed for very long-term storage of difficult genetic resources. So here we are in a greenhouse to produce the parents or grandparents of varieties, so the advanced breeding material, incorporating resistance from the one species. It will take about 5 years between two crosses, because then we have to go through a tuber production cycle again from the plants that will come from the seed in the berries produced by those crosses. So now we are in the field with the resistant varieties being tested. Those varieties, as you see, are very efficient, as you can see from the comparison with the susceptible varieties when they are not sprayed at all. But still the pathogen is able to establish itself, and you can see the symptoms in the leaves. So it's important to maintain that resistance for as long as possible. And that comes from a systemic approach where we have both the resistance of the varieties and an extra efforts to maintain that resistance with some sprays, limited sprays with either copper or alternative products that will reinforce the resistance of the variety and make it more durable. As you can see from that leaflet test, the pathogen is very diverse. In those boxes we have 4 different varieties with different resistant genes. And as you see, this is one isolate of the pathogen, that's another isolate of the pathogen, and as you can see, that variety is overcome by both isolates. But this one is resistant to this isolate and not to the other. And the same goes for the other resistant genes. So the very crucial question is, how do we best use all those resistant genes and breed them into varieties that will stand against a diversity of strains so that it remains resistant in the field for a number of years?
Nous avons trouvé donc la recherche a développé de nouvelles variétés. Nous avons diminué pratiquement notre volume de cuivre, notre aspersion de cuivre a été divisée pratiquement par 2. Donc ensuite, nous avons donc la variété Alliance se situe ici. Nous espérons avoir de très bons résultats et voilà.
Ik praat nu over 22 jaar geleden. Er waren een aantal dramatische jaren wat betreft Phytophthora in de biologische landbouw, maar ook in de gangbare landbouw. En toen deed het zich voor dat er gangbaar en biologisch zoveel Phytophthora was dat er over en weer elkaar de schuld gegeven werd waar het vandaan kwam. Toen dacht ik, dat doe ik niet aan mee. Ik ga proberen een Phytophthora-resistent ras te vinden. En zo is het begonnen, mijn zoektocht zeg maar, naar biologisch resistente rassen. En toen ben ik bij Meijer terechtgekomen. En die heeft voor mij de kruisingen gemaakt en daar is uiteindelijk Bionica uit voortgekomen als een van de eerste Phytophthora-resistente biologische rassen.
Here we from the Louis Bolk Institute have a demonstration field for the resistant cultivars compared to the standard varieties, because farmers want to see what the performance is in the field. Because not only late blight resistance is important, also the other characteristics of a variety is important to make it feasible to grow in the field, but also to see how they perform so that they are attractive for the retail. We have already 6 late blight resistant varieties on the market. And they have different qualities. Some are a bit mealy, other are firm cooking, some are white flesh, some are yellow flesh or in between. have different maturity. We work towards a new assortment of late blight resistant cultivars.
We sell organic potatoes for years now, and one thing I didn't know was that the potatoes was used copper to grow them. So now we know that problem. We want to contribute to the solution, and the solution are the new robust potatoes. Yes, and we had also different recipes. A recipe that Astrid has made.
We like to that the customers could taste all different kinds of potatoes. So for every day in the week we had a special recipe. Well, they like them, they took them all with them, and they want to try it.
And we learned that our customers want to contribute to the solution. If you tell them how the things are, they understand, and it's not so. It's quite easy to switch to the new robust potatoes.